Good evening, IL family, and welcome back to your Inclination Life here with your host, Lady Tamil / Coach Tamil. I want to thank you guys for coming back in with me on another Monday night here where we talk about positive living via simple truths. Excuse my tardiness, I'm a couple minutes late, but we're going to go right into our discussion, and it is thoughtfulness in a thoughtless world. So this conversation is about us adding thoughtfulness in a thoughtless world. And today it definitely comes right out of my life page. So this morning, when I got up to start off my beautiful Monday morning, I stepped outside, and you guys have heard me share that oftentimes when I go out in the morning and I'm taking our dog out to utilize the restroom, that it's in that moment that I step out and I look at the day and I look around and I take in all that God has created. And when I stepped out this morning, I was looking at the fall foliage. I was feeling the crispness of the morning, and it was just all of it together. It was just such a beautiful scene. It was just such a beautiful impact. And I remember saying to God, God, today is really a beautiful day as I stepped out. And so as I went about my morning, I had to stop at the gas station to get some gas this morning. And so when I pulled in, I had one other thing I wanted to do, so I was kind of playing with time a little bit, but I pulled up to the gas station, and the gas station was totally full, but I was watching, and a gentleman was coming out of the store, and I was watching to see whether he had to pump his gas or whether or not he actually was done and that he could move forward. And so I could tell that he was done, and he looked like directly at me. He saw me pull up behind him and everything, and so he immediately gets in his car, and instead of moving on out of the way because he could tell that the gas station was full and other people were lining up behind people, he decided to sit there on his phone, not cranking his car, not doing anything. And so I sat there for a moment, and that portion of me, I began to say, okay, so do I blow my horn? Do I wait patiently, God? What is it that I do in this moment where this person is just being what I would say was rude? And so I sat there for a moment. I didn't do anything, and then I tooted my horn, and then he still decided not to move. Now, I had a choice in that moment about how I would respond. And, I'm learning in life, and especially as I grow wiser in God, and that some things are just not worth it. And so that moment I decided it wasn't worth it. So it just so happened that the other side of the pump opens right on the side of him. And I decided instead of going to another pump, I want to come around and I want to see if me and this gentleman is going to make eye contact. And so he was sitting there on his phone, and he kind of looked over and he saw me. But in that moment, I decided not to respond in a negative way. And what I thought about it is I thought about how we as believers can be thoughtful in a thoughtless world, because we live in a world where people are so thoughtless just of the next human being, just of their neighbor, just of the next person beside them. And there's so many little things that we can do, that we can add something back into this world that is missing on so many parameters. And we can do it just in how we respond, just in how we interact, just in being a little bit more forward in our interactions every day with others. And so with that being said, and then another thing happened right when I was at the gas station. A car pulls up, and this music is playing. I mean, this is not music like where you can tell like, okay, it's got some bass in the car, but I mean, windows rolled up and everything, you're literally hearing every single lyric that comes out. And so not only is this music expanding out where someone could hear it probably even on the highway from the store we were at, but this music is so loud and it has vulgar language in it. And it also made me think about how I know that we are all given freedom and everything, but sometimes it takes it just takes a little bit more thought to consider the people around you, to consider. I thought about the person driving that car. Number one, it wasn't healthy for them, but the second thing was I was like, they didn't even weren't even considering enough to say, for the people that didn't listen to things about that, to the children that might have been out there that would have heard the language that was coming across outside of their speakers, they didn't even care. And so in that moment, those were two incidents where I was thinking about how thoughtless that humans are as we walk around and we interact in this world together. And so with that being said, I put here in our push to be ourselves, because I know there's never ever been a time in this earth where more people are grabbing a hold to the idea that we are individuals, and we are individuals. We are created individually, different in our own ways. And so it's important to understand that, yes, we truly are individuals, and we truly should strive to be ourselves, but we cannot do that to the level that we infringe upon other people. And so, with that being said, God said that we are to be in this world, but not of this world. And a lot of times we take that with the proper attitude, that means that we should not be like the world. There should be something that differentiates us from another. And so, the other thing about that is the main point that we draw out of the word is that we do that by love. But love has to be broken down into, it can be broken down into so many factors. But tonight, I'm just talking about being thoughtful. So, love, being thoughtful is a way that we can show the love that we have from God on the inside of us by just being thoughtful about others, by being thoughtful about the things we do, by not just getting up and making a decision without determining who is it going to affect. And it may just be your neighbor. It may just be a perfect stranger. I know oftentimes I'll say things to my husband, especially when it's things like outside our home, like, about our neighbors, because we're in a neighborhood and we share this space together, and we can't just live like no one else is in this world with us. And so with that being said, I put here, we can be the difference that the world sees. There's so many ways that we can infringe upon people. We sometimes infringe upon people's space. Those were the things that I was kind of talking about for this morning. We infringe upon people's time. I mean, in this morning, I experienced someone infringing on my space and my time all in one set. We can infringe upon somebody's rights. And so we've got to strive to be the difference that is in this world. And this is just one of the ways that we can do it. I put here that it used to be that there was people that had very stark attitudes. They were what we would consider in the South rude people. And when I was thinking about the rude being rude, I looked at that the RUDE, and I said, the next time I think about somebody being rude, I'm gonna just really say, instead of looking at them in that whole negative context, I'm gonna just look at them as if, are you doing enough? I'm gonna take those letters and I'm gonna say, are you doing enough? And the answer probably to that, if I thought they were rude, would probably be no, but it would make me not have such a negative thought process about the person that I believe in that moment is actually exuding that behavior. And so I put here that, it used to be a time where, you had to go to a certain region to see people that, maybe weren't as friendly as others that didn't walk by. But now with people migrating to all areas, we're mixing in. And so therefore we're seeing a lot of attitudes, things that, in the South were considered very pleasant, but things that we used to not see, we're seeing in this day and time everywhere that we go. And so if people can migrate from different areas and change the behaviors of the area that they go to, why can we not, as believers out here in this world, do this very same thing in every area that we're in by making a difference everywhere that we are? And so that's something that we can do. We can get in there and we can change. We can be the difference, that we can be the change that people need to see in the earth. And just think about if every believer, not one, not two, not the ones that were just bold, just think about if every believer, while they were out operating in this world, that we had such attitudes, that our actions were such that they were so impactful, that they showed such a great deal of the light that is on the inside of us, that it would grab attention. Imagine what an impact that we could make is if we did that as a whole. If we didn't get upset at the person that was being nasty to us at the cash register, or the one that was being upset with us at the restaurant, or the waiter that just seemed to not be having a great day that day. What would happen if we responded in a different way? And so I put here, if the behaviors of others can rub off so easily, what would we be able to do if we used our power and our love and our thought process in this world? So being thoughtful is something that will take intention. It's something that most of us don't do it takes a while before it becomes a part of our DNA. It takes a while before it is just how we instantaneously respond in a situation, because we're not brought up like that. We're brought up to defend ourselves. We're brought up to, a lot of us have that abrasiveness on the outside of us. And so we've got to get this thing in our DNA. And so the only way to do it is have it at the forethought of your mind every time that you're interacting with somebody, to consider what that interaction is like. Sometimes it's going to take analysis when you walk away to say, I wonder what that interaction was like for that other person. I wonder, did I give them the love that God has placed on the inside of me, or did I give them something else? And so I put here a little effort to consider others. It takes very little effort to consider others. Now, it may seem big in the beginning, especially if this is not your normal way of interacting with people. If it's not your normal thing to kind of consider others before yourself, it may seem like it's a lot of effort. But after a while, it should become a portion of your DNA, to the point that it takes little or no thought to esteem someone else higher than yourself. And that's what the word of God tells us to do. It takes little or no thought to be considerate of others. It takes little or no thought to kind of stand down, to surrender at times. And I know it's and a lot of us, it's our natural thing to respond, but we have to remember that we represent Christ out here in this world. And so I put here, the main thing that we've got to remember is we've got to move past emotion, because now if you ever give your feelings any thought, you are not going to be able to do this. So you're going to have to move emotions, and you're going to have to move feelings to the side. You're going to have to kind of do what I did in that moment this morning. And that is to just take a moment and say, okay, God, what should I do? Now, I already knew God's response to what it is that I should do, but I needed to acknowledge God so that I didn't allow myself to rise up. See, I had to crucify the flesh in that moment and remember that I represented Christ. And I had just been talking to God about what a beautiful day it is. And I couldn't let anything take that attitude away. And so I had to take that quick second, and all it took was a quick second, and any feeling, any emotion, any thought I had, it was kind of like out the door, and it was on about my day. But if I hadn't given in to the feeling or the emotion, who knows what a mess that I could have made in that moment. And so with that being said, we've got to remove emotion out of the way. I took thoughtlessness, which was on the part of the gentleman that I encountered on this morning, and I turned that into a message. So sometimes in this earth, and more often than not, we're going to have interactions, because it seems like the people are becoming more sterile as we continue on in time. People are more sterile, maybe because with the devices and such, there's less interaction, there's less love being shown. We're missing some of the meat that we used to experience in our interactions with one another in days of old. And so it becomes very hard, because a lot of times we're interacting with people that are sterile. We're interacting with a person that's not friendly, that does not seem to be helpful, that does not seem to want to be where they are on that day. But that's a challenge for us to even rise up and be more thoughtful when it seems like they're being thoughtless in that moment. And so I put here, I took that what was negative, and I turned that thing into a message. And so this is our challenge to this week, is to be more thoughtful, but not only be thoughtful, but if you encounter a situation where you get to be the light, take that thing, turn it around, and use it for fuel to be the change that this world needs to see just a little bit. A lot of times we're looking for the great things that we can do in the world, but the thing about it is you can do little things that are going to be so powerful and so impactful in a person's day. When the Bible says that love covers a multitude of sins, the love that you show to people in a moment, a lot of times that's more teachable than any other lesson. It's more teachable than any harsh words that you can say. It's more teachable than any derogatory thing that you can say in that moment or do in that moment. And so that love oftentimes is what causes that person to walk away and then begin to look at their actions and say what they should have or they should not have done. Now, there's an age-old adage, and we all know it. It comes from a command in the Bible, and it's simple. It's do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And most of us, would probably say that we've never been 100% in that category, because more than likely we've all done something to another person that we definitely would not want reciprocated to us. But what we can do is keep that at the forefront of our mind, that we want to treat people the way that we want to be treated, and oftentimes treat them better than they've ever been treated in the world. And so oftentimes we need simple reminders. And so, my logo, a saying for Inclination Life is positive living via simple truths. Tonight is truly a simple truth night. It's about us doing unto others. It's about us being the light in the world that we can be. It's about us doing something that seems so small, but it has such a great impact. It's about us making a change in this world. And so on tonight, let's be God's changers. This week, let's strive to be God's changers. As you're maybe faced with opposition in this week, it might just be in your home, but wherever it is, respond differently than what you're getting on this week. Be thoughtful when the person you're interacting with seems to be thoughtless. Do your part so that you don't fall in that rude category where I'm asking, are you doing enough? I hope this conversation was encouraging to you on tonight, and I want to thank you all for tuning in with me tonight as we've had another conversation about positive living via simple truths. I pray you'll tune in with me next week as we have another chat. Good night.